The state's application for denial of bail is founded on the affidavit sworn by Inspector Nixon Ngigi on the 2nd of March 2026. In a sense, Inspector Nixon, N-I-C-K, Nixon Ngigi, I'm told it's pronounced as Ngige, sworn on 2nd March 2026. In a sense, the state, or rather the republic, submits that there are compelling reasons in proceed on the basis that the state has, by that affidavit, established the existence of compelling reasons in accordance with Article 49(1)(h) of the Constitution to justify the denial of bail and therefore a limiting of the right to liberty and freedom pursuant to Article 24 of the Constitution. Those compelling reasons are identified at paragraph 20 of the affidavit filed in 686. That is, the respondent is Elvis Obaigwa. There may be a slight difference in the others. The other one is at paragraph 21. That is 684. And in 685 at paragraph 20. So it's paragraph 20 in 685 and 686. And it is paragraph 21 in 684. Essentially, we are telling the court that considering the nature of the application before you being an extradition application, that's why it was important for us that we hear the PO first, that there is the high likelihood that each of the respondents, in self-preservation and in trying to be extradited out of the borders and jurisdiction of the country, there's a high likelihood that they will flee. And the danger of the possibility of fleeing is that because, as has been demonstrated in the arguments before these arguments, that extradition is founded on bilateral and multilateral agreements and treaties between countries. A fugitive, as is the word used in the statute for extradition, that faces the potential of extradition may flee to a country that does not have an extradition arrangement with either Kenya or the United States, thereby making it impossible to surrender such a person from that country without an extradition treaty to the United States where they are required. Number two, Your Honor, as a public interest argument, there is the reciprocity requirement in diplomacy that Kenya surrenders fugitives in its jurisdiction to countries with which it has extradition arrangements in the larger quest for accountability for crimes across state borders. So that denial of bail at this juncture would be justified towards Kenya's compliance with the diplomatic and international obligations. And this court, Your Honor, is part of that Kenya. Your Honor, the offenses for which each of the respondents is required in the United States of America are serious. under the bail and bond policy guidelines, the judiciary bail and bond policy guidelines, the seriousness of the offense is of itself a compelling reason. And how do we demonstrate the seriousness? By the harshness of the potential penalty. Each of the respondents faces up to 30 years incarceration. Your Honor, the allegation as evidenced in the affidavit from the DEA in the United States, which is attached to the substantive motion already served to all parties, and also attached to the application for denial of bail, or rather the affidavit, illustrates that these offenses were committed right from inside Kenya across the borders in the United States of America. With that level of complexity of the offense, it is not remote that the fugitives are likely to interfere with the evidence, this being an electronic offense.
With a lot of respect to my colleague, whom I rarely interrupt, that one is now saying from the bar. It's not anywhere on the affidavit of Inspector Nicholas Ngigi.
Your Honor, annexed to this affidavit of Inspector Ngigi is another affidavit which we are referring to from the United States.
The statement about interference with witnesses, Your Honor. Yes.
Your Honor, give me 1.5 more and I'll be done. So that in summary, Your Honor, we are asking the court to consider the high risk of flight towards self-preservation, number 1. Number 2, the seriousness of the offenses. Number 3, the high likelihood of interference with the evidence. And Your Honor, I was just referring you to the affidavit of Brian R. Hood, which is attached to this affidavit in opposition of bail. Mr. Dudley had not seen it. I'll help him. Okay. He has seen it finally. So that if you consider all that, pending the hearing and determination of the substantive motion of extradition, Your Honor, and this question of bail, because it's one of the limited areas where this court can review its decisions, pending the hearing and determination of the question of whether or not we have established a basis for extradition, and considering the compelling reasons that we have highlighted, the totality of the arguments, at least from our end, is that it would be unsafe and or improper to release any of the fugitives at this instance before you hear us on the application for extradition. Again, I'm sorry for taking more time than I had requested, and I thank you. Unless my colleagues want to say they have nothing to add. Asante sana.